Good morning, everyone. A warm welcome despite the weather to Alston and Sonneborg. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for your kind words. Thank you for coming, and in particular also thank you to the Bitten and Mats Clausen Foundation, which has made this initiative possible. And I would also especially like to thank Kim Christensen from Danfoss for his ongoing initiative and energy that we jointly, I think, spent of trying to get things running up to this point. And my goal of today is to tell you where we are and where we would like to be. And in the sense of calling ourselves a living lab, I'm trying really to bring it down to the essence of what we want to be, an active living lab. Hence, I will try to tell you in which sense do I talk about the living lab and how do we actually create our living lab. A living lab in terms of a workspace, of course. We want to foster and create creative and productive interaction between the businesses and the academics for studying business-to-business relationships with a strong focus on value chains of industrial-based firms. And when I say this also in the context of our very name, noting that we're called the Danfoss Center of Global Business and not the Center of Global Business. Hence, we really want to cooperate with any such firms, industrial-based firms. We are not a center for Danfoss, but we are a center for you, whether you're large or small, and we would love to reach out to you and look forward to hearing from you with regards to projects. If I may remind you to our mission, that is, we want to reach out with regards to teaching and research, looking at the growing complexity and interdependence of the different stakeholders in the value chains as such, still fairly broad, but it also shows you that we want to reach out to more than just single firms as such, and we have examples in this very building I will mention later on. A living lab, a new way of interaction, and I would, want a new way that we think a little bit creative. I'm asking for creative destruction on both our end as academics as well as on the end of the businesses. That is, I would like to ask ourselves, can we throw a little bit of the old thinking overboard of cooperation that we usually have through the various degree programs, having in mind a project-based interaction in our center. What do I expect from us? I expect that we are flexible towards the evolving business demands, that we strive at the same time for academic excellence, of course, with regards to publications and graduate students. I expect also from the business, nevertheless, that they should account for our data needs, that they should account for our public mission of knowledge creation and dissemination. That means when we talk to companies about their data sharing, there have been and there will be always confidentiality issues, and that's an important hurdle that we need to talk about. And we need from the companies that they understand our mission and our perspective, and we develop a trust relationship that continues academic rigor and independence at the same time from our end. So I'm simply saying there's no gain without pain in the evolutionary process of our little center. And along those lines, there is no gain without pain. We want to constantly mutate in our living lab, which brings us back to Josef Schumpeter. And he put it in very nice words that the opening of new markets, foreign or domestic, and the organizational development of industry illustrates the very same process of industrial mutation. If I may use that biological term, that incessantly revolutionizes the economic structure from within, incessantly destroying the old one, incessantly creating a new one. This process of creative destruction is the essential fact about capitalism. Yet he took many of those words and ideas from Marx, so don't take me as a neoliberalist here promoting strict capitalism through the center of global business, but I really want us to be creative when we interact with businesses and to think in new ways and in pragmatic ways. So when we create our living lab focused on project-based interaction, what do we have as a structure? We have an international advisory board, first of all. Also, I would love to emphasize it is still work in progress. We are looking forward, especially to integrating a small and medium-sized enterprise representative here. And the same applies to the center staff, that it's incomplete at this point. and I will let you know in a second where we are. With regards to our advisory board, we have a broad range, I would argue. A colleague from the INSEAD Business School from Paris, Ben Mensau. There's Kim joining us from Danfoss. There's colleague Bernd Frick, who is both the professor at the University in Paderborn, but also the director of Volkswagen Institute of Labor and Personnel Economics. Hence, a clear example for me of a very interesting outreach to the industry that can link both sides of the coin, so to speak. And we have David Vogel from the Haas Business School from Berkeley. I should and would like to emphasize our goal is clear to balance the representativeness between businesses and academics. Here we haven't achieved that yet. As I mentioned, we are continuing to grow our board to that extent. What's the function of the board? We would like to see it to help us to select project proposals, where we'll ask for the businesses forthcoming with short proposals, short project statements, interest in statements. We want to see the board monitoring and assessing us, both on the input side with regards to our employees, as well as, of course, on the output side. We want to see the board advise us on the research direction. That includes also future heads and future staff in the broader direction of the center. And naturally, we want to use the board to connect to outside stakeholders. We look for external funding opportunities. As I mentioned, we also need data and related facts to connect and to have the students work on. So we do need the reports and the data, and that's where I see the board will also help us to identify suitable databases and such. In terms of the center staff, reminding us that we're looking at the moment at a time scale between 2013 and 18. So what I will mention now, these are the staff that I foresee to be positioned within, in fact, the next few months. I hope by the end of this year we will be more or less complete. But we are looking with this amount of staff to be active through that period up to 18. We will have 2 assistant professors and 1 associate professor. That is almost complete on the assistant professor side. We will have 2 PhD students. One of them is amongst you in the audience. We are also at the moment working on a number of postdocs. In other words, we're strongly looking for external funding here. A 20% visiting professor will be part of the center. And we have 1 active and very helpful administration executive assistant, Daniel Stogard, who is amongst us at the moment. Thank you, Daniel, for all your help behind the scenes, first of all. There's myself as the head of the center, and I do look forward of, in the future, remaining also the chairman of our International Advisory Board. Yet I also do look forward, once the staffing is completed, to step back into my primary role of an MSO professor, the research director in our unit here, and thus will hand over the baton at some point when things have evolved, and we will have, therefore, a new head of the center in some point. Our 2 primary goals, I want to emphasize those and how in practice we are reaching out to companies. Our first goal is to have what we called action-oriented research projects with the collaborating firms and the stakeholders in the region. What's in for me, right? That's the question that I get every day. What's your value proposition? What are the benefits to the firm? I think often firms leave some issues they have in their pocket literally in the drawer because either they don't have current staff to look at it, or financially it would be perceived too large to upscale it to a full consultancy project. I see ourselves as being in the middle, as having that little gap where potentially our project could be test balloons for the companies where they can explore. Does it make sense for me to really follow up in larger depth and with more financial support, or do I drop this thing and after I explored it with a student, we focus on other things? So there's this benefit of a test balloon, as I call it. Hopefully you will get some reports. We will have staff reporting back to you, interacting along those lines. And of course, in a practical sense, I would see this interaction as a pre-screening device for potential new employees for the companies. What's the benefit for us? Obvious. We can, as researchers, receive some seed funding if we collaborate here, and we get both industry partners as well as other academics as partners when we seek for external funding here. The benefits to the students are, in my view, also obvious. There's the outreach to business, so they get a very practical and up-to-date business and academic perspective. And naturally, I would not undermine the employment opportunities that I would see we also provide. In your program, you have a little leaflet that, in my view, describes the traditional ways of how we engage with regards to various internships, bachelor, master thesis, industrial PhDs. Now we have industrial postdocs too. As I said, I really encourage us, and we think in a practical term from the teaching side, to think of new ways of interaction beyond those possibilities of student projects. But for a start, these are some of the possibilities that you have in your program to talk up to us. And afterwards, some of the students with actual experiences in those programs will be available to be interviewed and to tell you more about the practical side of this. Our second primary goal is the staff exchange, the business student researcher staff exchange. We hope that there are businesses who have staff that would like to upgrade their staff to a master or to an industrial PhD and the like, and subsequently maybe return to the business so that the human capital stays in the firm and we really make a contribution there. We also hope that those employees from the firms, from the businesses, come to us and give some guest lectures so our students are constantly up to date on the business frontier. The center staff, I hope, will also spend some time, and we find open doors with the businesses to collect data, to write case studies and conduct analyses. And also we hope naturally that we connect to non-center academics from Denmark, from all over the world, to work on joint research projects with businesses in the region and to provide those non-center academic staff with teaching opportunities if they wish. How do we reach out to the companies? I think that's the very, very key, right? We're sitting here in Sonneborg in this very building. We are not an ivory tower. We are so fortunate in this building that we have a number of partners, as I already call them, as we've talked about, as we've discussed, to reach out. So nevertheless, the first obvious thing is please do email us. It is very simple to let us know, do you have anyone whom you know or yourself, companies, who have an interest in various types of projects? In the future, we plan to send out literally calls for projects to firms via our partners here. There's the Lean Energy Cluster, there's Project Zero, there's Universe Fonden, there's the Industrie- und Handelskammer Schleswig-Holstein, and also we've started projects with the Kiel Institute for the World Economy. So we're really trying to balance here economic perspectives, the business perspective, and rigor in terms of the academic perspective. To remind us, what is our focus content-wise? The focus was B2B relationships, and in the middle you see the green with regards to the emphasis on the value chains of industrial-based firms. To give you a 2-second flavor of rough topic and areas we're looking for, we look at novel approaches for studying B2B relationships, thinking of innovation drivers in value chains, bottom-up innovation. And not only bottom-up innovation, we want to help you identify buyer needs. We want also to look at, if you look at the lower hand, left-hand corner, managerial decision-making in those value chains. So both at the firm level and at the manager level, we would like to explore various issues. We want to look at what's the structure of the value chain like, how can we improve the structure, and the bottom right-hand corner, the organizational design. So in all this, we have marketing, we have innovation, bottom-up innovation, we have the design and structure of the value chain, and we really encourage you to think of project ideas if you have any of those issues along those lines. What is happening at the moment, last but not least? We have, for example, a bachelor project that deals with customer loyalty segmentation across regional markets. We have 4 colleagues who are collaborating, starting a project called Knowledge Sharing Strategy in Danfoss Power Solutions. We have a master thesis running called Toward an Innovation-Driven Value Chain, a customer-based perspective, where I'm the supervisor. We have a proposal for a new master course where we in fact integrate databases from companies, and we will call this likely Business Research Project, from project idea to business practice. In other words, the students will be led through this whole, if you want to call it, value chain of writing, developing projects with companies. And colleague Pizza is on board here. And also we have a case study book in progress on strategic value chain management with a selection of regional and global firm case studies. So you can see from that portfolio there are different ways of how we would love you to come forward and interact with us. And I think we are trying to broaden this portfolio with your help much further. So thank you again for being here. I very much look forward to your questions, to your criticism, to your constructive deconstruction, and thus look forward to the afternoon to speaking to some of you after 3:30. Thank you once more, and if there are any questions, of course, I'm more than happy to answer those. Thank you.